Now, you've probably heard over and over that climbing is a skill sport. And that's true, but it's also a strength sport and a power sport and an endurance sport. And when we're talking training, that can get really confusing. Which is why I recently dropped a video that roughly outlines 3 sessions that, when cycled through, are probably the simplest effective way to structure your training for climbing. Go hard, do more, and explore. And in that video, I kept the advice really simple, because simple was the entire goal. But I know that some people want a little more detail and understanding of how to take the next step to make those sessions more robust. So I'm going deeper into each session and looking at the specifics. I'm Chris Hampton, this is the Power Company Climbing Academy, and in this video, we're talking about a few strategies you can use during an explore session to become a more skilled climber. Let's go. Climbing is one of the most complex sports out there, period. That's hard to debate. The goals can be anywhere on the spectrum of one really hard move to a 3,000-foot big wall with many thousands of moves. Our terrain is constantly changing, the amount of different movements are endless, and nearly every climb works within every energy system. That's why it's imperative that our movement skills are adaptable, that we can operate regardless of climbing style or grip type or wall angle at a high enough level of comfort to be able to effectively apply the strength and endurance that we've worked so hard for. And we aren't just talking technique here. In my definition, technique is the type of movement pattern you choose, a heel hook or a drop knee. Skill, however, is the way in which you're able to adapt that technique to a wide variety of situations. Being able to recite some random technique rule, like keep your hips close to the wall or externally rotate when you heel hook, doesn't help you get better at climbing. It might help you at that move, but not at climbing. Learning that those aren't rules at all, but that there will be absolutely scenarios where doing it differently is the best way, and then adapting to those scenarios, that's how you actually get better. We also aren't really going to be talking drills here. Now, I'm a fan of drills that follow the principles of skill acquisition and adaptability anyway, and not all do. But way before you get to a specific drill that you should be working on, I think you need to understand the fundamental movement skill that you're trying to work on. Now, in my movement assessment tool, the Atomic Elements of Climbing Movement, I break movement into 3 fundamental parts: tension, position, and rhythm. We can then adjust how we apply those fundamentals through both commitment and effort. 1 or 2 of those areas is where you probably want to focus your time and energy. Which is best isn't always easy to figure out. Frankly, you're not going to go wrong by putting time into any of them. Literally every climbing move has elements of all 5 in varying degrees. But if you do want some help figuring out where to focus your time, check out the Atomic Elements of Climbing Movement. It's an assessment you can use as your climbing changes, and it'll help you not only figure out what element to work on, but will also, using the included drill matrix, give you specific ways to work on that element or combinations of multiple elements. Now, it's not something you have to have, but it might make things simpler for you, and over time, be a good way to see progress in some of the more subjective parts of climbing. Now, the entire goal of an explore session is to get out of your comfort zone, this place where things feel easy and locked in. We don't want to get all the way to the chaos zone where things are just too complicated or difficult to really make sense of. Instead, we want to be in this learning zone where we feel a little awkward or bumbly, and it might be just as mentally taxing as it is physically, but we're also able to try different things, be creative, and still gain an understanding of the moves as we go. And we won't always be able to come up with the correct learning zone based solely on style or solely on grade. You might be bad at slab, but that's relative to your best style. If you're a V5 climber, V3 slab might be really challenging. If you climb V11, V3 slab might be too easy. So finding the right learning zone will always be a conversation between both style and difficulty. And it's up to you to adjust both continuously. Now, it's also worth saying here that these sessions might be just as taxing as a go hard session, so you might need a good rest afterward. Sometimes they may feel quite a bit different than that, so you just have to be flexible in your recovery and scheduling after one of these explore sessions. Now, we could build a structured session here, but in my opinion, that defeats the purpose. This is a session that should change as you get excited about things. Your warm-ups will look dramatically different. The time spent on things will vary wildly. And honestly, I'd rather you go in without the strict structure simply because it's easier to phone it in when you have that structure. And where you can sometimes phone in endurance or strength work and still make some gains, that just isn't going to work here. But there are a few things you can keep in mind for the main part of your session, after you're warmed up and ready to try harder things, that can help you get into this creative space that's required to really explore. First, if you're in a commercial gym, go straight to the things you normally avoid. Maybe it's the steepest part of the cave, or the techie vert walls, or the comp style boulders. By the way, it's high time that we stop saying that comp style doesn't translate to outdoor climbing. More and more FAs are going up with comp style beta, more young climbers are finding better beta for existing climbs that involve redirected dynos or some technique that just a few years ago was strictly comp style. So just go try the comp boulders. You'll become more adaptable. You just will, and it will absolutely translate. Now, these styles, the ones you normally avoid, are the low-hanging fruit. You stand to make so much progress here. Even if you're a naysayer who has decided to label yourself just a steep crimp climber, you're going to have to learn to climb on slopers and slabs and everything else, or you're going to hit a hard plateau. You can still be a specialist in those other 2 out of 3 sessions, but for this one, explore. Trust me, you can thank me later. Now, if you want to supercharge this idea of trying the things that you normally avoid, here's a great way. During your go hard days, when you're climbing in your preferred style, if you find a specific move that feels oddly difficult for that grade, or you see other people do it easily and it just isn't clicking for you, file that move away and come back to it during these explore sessions. Or if you use your strengths to get around a move, you found an intermediate, or you pulled off of a foothold to avoid the big move, or you just dynoed past a move that you found challenging, go back to those moves on your explore day and spend time, well, exploring them. Try different body positions, turning your feet different ways, grabbing the hold differently. Try the moves the way everyone else does them, instead of finding a way that you think fits for you. It's entirely possible that it's not just a strength issue or a size issue, which is our automatic response the majority of the time, and it's instead an issue of not quite understanding the movement yet. Now, the biggest crux of spending time climbing on things you normally avoid, particularly in a commercial setting, is definitely your own ego. It's tough to be failing on grades that you and everyone else knows that you should be able to do. If you lean in a few times though, it gets easier. And I guarantee that those people watching you fail over and over again will start wishing that they could also fail in public that way on the things that they suck at. I guarantee it. However, if you're the kind of climber who doesn't regularly avoid any particular style and you're roughly equally adaptable at them all, then you can't really just afford to wait for strangely difficult moves to show up. In that case, you need to think like a setter. If you're on your home spray wall or a board, spend some time making things up. Do it with friends who are around the same level as you, but climb with a different style. The key here really is to not fall into the trap of doing harder versions of what you're already good at. You should do that on a go hard day. This is a trap that's really easy to fall into when board climbing, since the holds and the moves are already familiar. We also have to be careful to do more than just choose a grip type we wouldn't normally choose. We have to challenge the types of movement that we like to do. Now, if you're familiar with our Boulder Builder course for home walls and boards, then you might remember that you can adjust difficulty in 4 ways. The 2 most common are via severity, how good or bad the hold is, and distance, how far apart the holds are. And these 2 options are great for making a harder version of something you can already do. But if we want to explore new movement that we aren't as familiar with, we need to instead consider orientation and direction. This is essentially the way a hold faces and what direction you need to go when using it. And if these 2 things are at odds, you grab that side pull and you really want to compress it, but the next hold is in the opposite direction, then you're going to have to get creative in your movement. That is a big win. So it's best to choose the holds you wouldn't normally choose and go the directions you wouldn't normally go. And you can make up things in the commercial gym too. Eliminates are the easy choice to make moves harder, just removing a few key holds. And don't forget that eliminating footholds is also a great way to dramatically change the way that you do moves. In fact, when John Gill was essentially inventing dynamic moves and exploring the limits of possibility, creating bouldering as we know it, this is exactly what he did. Eliminate obvious holds to create new, novel challenges. I'm exploring this entire era in the upcoming season of my climbing history show, Written in Stone. Check it out if you haven't. We can also take another cue from outdoor climbers and try linking together existing climbs. It just takes a little creativity to unlock completely new moves that the setters didn't intend. Now, in this example, I'd already climbed this pink boulder as well as the green pocket boulder and most of the other boulders on this section of wall. But while climbing the pink boulder, I found myself wanting to explore the potential of matching in the two big Wacos instead of doing the original sequence. I could have just eliminated the little mini jugs under each Waco, and that would have made it a little harder, but I was really looking for something fundamentally different instead of just more difficult. And after looking at the wall for a bit, I realized that the big Wacos and the small green pockets, some of them pretty shallow, represented two ends of the same spectrum of grip type, and it seemed like it might be fun to find a cool sequence to connect them. So I worked through a few options and finally found one that had challenging moves and a good flow. And I actually repeated this version several times, trying to make it better and better. I was still warming up, so it wasn't particularly hard, but it did force me to think about the moves and positions and how it would flow instead of just falling into going through the motions. And it got me into this creative mindset that I wanted to be in for this explore session. Now the key here is to make up the rules of the climb and then stick to them, especially when your intuition tells you that it would be easier if you did it a different way, so you change it on the fly. If you want to climb it again differently, you always can, but defaulting to your intuition over and over will keep you stuck in the same patterns. Now during this same session, I moved to harder climbing with this same eliminate link up mindset. I'd already climbed both of these boulders, the purple and the yellow, but that doesn't always have to be true. Making up links or subbing in holds can be a great way to climb parts of boulders that are still over your head but have cool and interesting movement. Now, it took me a few tries to sort out this purple boulder. I found the finish really challenging and pretty committing, but when I sat down at the start, I remember thinking that the position wasn't one I normally put myself into. And I was glad I was going up and left instead of straight right, where I'd have trouble creating momentum and really have to load this heel hook. The yellow boulder, which was only graded one number below, suited me really well and went pretty easily on the first try. And I was actually a little bummed that the big yellow pusher sloper right in the middle didn't come into play as a more difficult to use grip. It's one of my favorite holds. I have it on my own wall, so I know how devious it can actually be. I decided I wanted to piece something together between the two boulders. The first thing to do was figure out how to create the exact move at the start of the purple boulder that I was glad I didn't have to do, because I knew how good it would be for me. And the yellow start holds, way out right, forced me to create momentum in this interesting way that I found challenging, and then once I eliminated some of the holds on the purple, I really had to commit to loading that heel hook and making a big move from it. That put me into the position for the big throw that I really wanted to try, which turned out to be difficult. I thought for sure I'd do it in a few tries. That's not what happened. Not to mention, getting out of it was going to be challenging and took several tries to do as well. Now, I'm also not a big fan of cruxes at the top of tall walls, so I decided to end this boulder shortly after the big crux move that I was looking for. It took a lot of tries to sort out the individual sections, and I never did quite stick the crux move in the one session that I had while there. But I got from it exactly what I hoped I would, something that allowed me to be creative and explore while challenging my position and my commitment without being dangerous and forcing me to try really hard. The send was secondary. Now, sending might be the goal of performance, but when talking about practice and learning, sending isn't necessarily the goal. In fact, I'd suggest trying not to get trapped into the send cycle of repeated attempts when you're in an explore session. You can move that to a go hard session instead. Now, I personally think there's a lot to be gained from exploring in this way. You get to learn what works and what might not work yet. And because it hasn't been set and given a number with a beta video or other people doing it in front of you, then you have no idea how to compare yourself to it. There's no, this is just too hard a grade so I can't do it, or this grade is easy but it feels too hard so I'm going to protect my ego and move on. It's just figure out this fun thing, whatever difficulty it is. And when that happens, most of us are more inclined to just try it and to be creative about how we try it. And when doing any of this, you'll almost certainly imagine moves that you can't quite do. You'll definitely think a move is going to be hard, but find it easy. You'll have to find novel positions to make some of the moves work. And it won't all be pretty. And actually, I think you should lean into those moments and see if there is some sort of way to make it look or feel better. It might not be that the move is awkward. It might just be that you haven't figured out how to make it feel good yet. And like I've said before, no matter how experienced you aren't always going to nail it. It might feel like you really didn't get anything done or find anything at the right level of challenge. Keep in mind that it's important to also better understand what you don't need to work on. And on those days when you try things but they're either too complex or not complex enough, then you're finding the places where you don't need to be working. That's actually a big win. And not letting fear and ego get in the way is going to take time. We all move through these things at a different pace, so give yourself some grace and try again. Be patient with it. Now, I'm sure that other questions are going to arise. Please feel free to drop those in the comments and let's talk about it. But overall, remember, these sessions are supposed to be simple. That's the important thing here. And they're supposed to be fun. Fun enough that we'll show up and we'll get them done. Now, you might be 1 or 2% less effective in those sessions where you didn't quite hit the mark, but you're 100% less effective if you don't show up at all. So keep it simple, resist the urge to complicate it until the simple version just isn't working anymore. All right, I'll see you guys next time.